because people need to understand that the people are behind Luigi, and that includes the people behind the gated walls.
Oh, this is interesting.
Free Luigi!
It's too windy.
Ashley, they're going nuts in there right now watching this video on playback. This was just from a few hours ago, and here they are, 10 o'clock as promised. They said earlier today, tell Ashley Banfield that Luigi is watching at 10 o'clock. I mean, obviously, you know, that's just a hard roast at this point because they're not near Luigi in any way, as confirmed by the Department of Corrections earlier.
Just the idea that, and I said it before, there's honor amongst thieves.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just said there's honor amongst thieves. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely a certain amount of respect in amongst incarcerated people for people that punch up.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know? I think, yeah, I think so. I think that what you're seeing there in that video is exactly that. People who are respecting someone who they view as doing something noble, as doing a gesture against the system, against, you know, fighting the good fight for the downtrodden, so on and so forth, almost like a Robin Hood figure. And I think that the reaction we're seeing from Americans, many of whom are not condoning murder, but saying, what do you expect? What do you expect? I mean, and as well as, too, I think the larger conversation, too, of what is violence? Why is it acceptable to do the paperwork that condemns people to death, that condemns people to suffering, that condemns families to financial ruination? That's not considered violence, but shooting a man is. You know, I mean, so also, too, the exposure of the dissonance between the American elites, particularly those in corporate media, and their anger at the American public for holding these views, for having this frustration, this rage against a system that is killing tens of thousands of a year, making just financial hardship, upturning lives. I mean, I'll tell you, so I have I've been separated for 5 years now. I've seen my ex twice during that time, and we're still together because of the healthcare insurance. Right. And when you tell people that story, everyone knows someone like that, you know, oh, yeah, no, my cousin's doing the same thing. Right. I mean, like, so you have that type of people are living their lives in a way that's just ridiculous. I can't find a better word than that. And so I think that the cheering for Luigi, the support for him as this type of noble villain, if you will, is understandable, you know, because it's a system that is killing people. It's certainly one of the reasons why, Peter, brought my campaign, why I decided to run 2 years ago, or was it, I guess, 3 years ago now when I decided to run, because I just knew too many people that were calling. I mean, I knew too many people who are close to me, people I love, you know, people who are in my inner circle of family and friends and loved ones, who were looking at their checking accounts before deciding whether to call the doctor. You know, people who were not supposed to be living like this. If people understand what I'm meaning, you're not in your 20s anymore. You're in your 40s and your 50s, and you're not going to the dentist because you can't afford to go. I knew way too many people I love, and that was one of the and of course, I think perhaps, you know, maybe the murder, if it occurred prior to the election, may have generated more of a conversation. I doubt it. It would have, the corporate media would have done their best to shape the conversation. But, you know, it's curious that, you know, what did we hear about healthcare in the last year in the election? We heard absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, well, and that's another reason why we were talking before about why anything that this guy has said that's going to make sense, they're not going to put in the media. Like, he doesn't have, his manifesto is not like the ramblings of a mentally ill person. So they're not going to want to put that out there, because people are going to look at that and be like, yeah, I get that. That makes complete logical sense to me. And, you know, there is this rage. Like, I am so enraged, and I have healthcare, and you know, but the whole concept that people are clutching their pearls over this in those corporate media spaces. And that these are also, by the way, many of the same people that were clutching their pearls about nonviolent protests on college campuses.
Right.
So again, if you are going to stifle nonviolent protest, this is what is going to happen. You have more and more desperate people, more and more people with nothing left to lose, and everybody has access to firearms here. So what do people think is going to happen?
And not only that, but you're also in a situation where corporate media knows that this is something that could truly bring them down. So they don't know what the hell to do. They're really trying their best not to have to cover this. And as vain of a society, as much vanity that our society is made up of, I mean, we're a reality TV obsessed culture in many corners of it, which is disturbing, but I digress. We are also seeing the effects of them fearing the fact that Mangione is an attractive, affluent man. And by having a face like that on TV tell you that you need universal health care, that becomes an even greater risk because you have all of these women that apparently have been donating money to his defense fund.
Why do you keep thinking it's only women?
Maybe there's men too. I'm not saying
sure there are.
But they did say that there was an abundance of women that were contributing to his cause. Not that I think there's anything wrong with that. I think sorry, the Seinfeld references will still exist.
You've got to stop. Seinfeld is dead to me. You've got to stop.
However, I do think it's important to note that even Senator Warren was willing to say a visceral response to insurance CEOs' killing should be warning to everyone in the healthcare system. Yes, that is correct. It should be a warning to everyone in the healthcare system. Senator Warren said in a new interview that the visceral response to the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson should serve as a warning to everyone in the healthcare system because the people can only be pushed so far. Violence is never the answer because it always has to be a disclaimer. But
I don't agree with that, by the way. I disagree with that. I think that violence.
Let's not crush our channel any worse than it's already been crushed. Let's at least try to maintain it. Everybody knows already where you stand. But people can be pushed only so far. This is a warning that if you push people hard enough, they lose faith in the ability of their government to make change, lose faith in the ability of the people who are providing the healthcare to make change and start to take matters into their own hands in ways that will ultimately be a threat to everyone. But here's the thing. It's never worked for the people. But as Jen has pointed out, for the good portion of the time that we've been on the air doing this show, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Yep. They have been in the pig stage for a very long time, but it is painfully obvious as a result of, on the domestic side, what just happened, and on the foreign side with Israel over the past year. And you could throw Ukraine in there as well.
I just think that you don't get to be the most violent empire on the face of the earth and be somehow shocked when it comes home to roost. And I very much agree with what you were saying before, Matthew, and I was saying it before on Status Coup. I want people to rethink what we consider violence, because austerity and that mindset and denial of healthcare is violence. The level of violence in a society is always dictated by the oppressor. The amount of force necessary to resist the boot on your neck is by whatever means necessary. And I don't, we want to sit there and keep saying violence isn't the answer. Yes, all things being equal, if we started in the beginning, violence isn't the answer. But this has gotten to the point where we are so far past that as a civilization that to say that is just so beyond stupid and just extremely not reading the room. But I don't agree. I think and let me tell you, and I've said it before, if somebody hurt my kids or if my kids didn't get healthier and I had nothing left to lose, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. And I find it infuriating. And I find what Brian Thompson did as violent. I think if somebody was standing on the street and shooting a whole bunch of people and someone shot him to stop him, we'd be saying that's a hero. But this piece of shit gets to sit there and allow for people to be dead all over the place. And because he doesn't actually physically do it, we don't consider that violence. And I completely disagree. And violence begets violence. And apparently, this is the level of violence that our society is calling for. The level of violence is determined by the oppressor. And I am just tired of that. And I am not a pacifist. And I am done with that shit. And if somebody put hands on me or my kids, I'd friggin' take them out. And I do not care anymore about that. And I don't even own a firearm.